Today I'm going to walk you through creating a heated automatic watering system for your rabbitry. This we'll go step by step here and show you what's involved. It's really pretty simple. The system uses black ag pipe as the main plumbing, and has these horizontal chicken water nipples tapped directly into the side of the pipe right there, and then heat tape installed. Well, it's under the that aluminum tape there. Heat tape installed on the outside of the pipe, and then insulated with rigid foam pipe insulation. And you'll see later in the video one of my a couple of my systems, I went ahead and put aluminum flashing over the insulation to protect it from sunlight. That is very optional. The insulation holds up pretty well. I found to UV light, at least so far. It's lasted a year without any degrading on one of my other hutches. So I have this pipe here hasn't been wired to the cage completely yet. I left that off to show you a little bit more clearly how everything goes together. And there, we can see a little bit better from this side how the nipples stick into the bottom of the cage there. So let's get to it. Okay, first let's talk about the water supply. This is a heavy-duty tote that we just had laying around. A 5-gallon bucket works too. And I'm using 1-inch black poly or black ag pipe for the system. So these 1-inch barbed fittings are what you use for that. For the section that goes from the water tote down to the main part of the water system, I'm using this clear hose, which is a little more flexible. And it slides onto the barbed fitting like that and clamps on. You need an 1.25-inch spade bit, or I use a speed bore. It's a little more advanced than you necessarily need. Just a simple spade bit or paddle bit would work to make the right size hole for the 1-inch threads. And on the inside of the tote will the inside will be this plastic conduit nut, and then an O-ring that is sized to fit those 1-inch threads. And then on the outside there will be this metal conduit nut. The metal one goes on first, and then the O-ring. This goes into the tote, and then this goes on, the plastic nut goes on the inside. So I'm talking about using black ag pipe or PEX for the main line of the water system, for a number of reasons. The main reason is that both black ag pipe and PEX can handle a little bit of freezing better than PVC can. And even though you're putting heat tape on this, who's to say that the electricity won't go out, with a winter storm, and your lines freeze, and the PVC is much more likely to crack in that sort of situation. So that would be the main reason to use the black ag pipe or PEX. But also the plastic used for the ag pipe and PEX is a lot softer than the PVC, and you know, I haven't used the PVC with these nipples, so I can't say that it wouldn't work for sure. But when I did a little experimental hole there in the PVC, and I don't know if you can see the threads on the video here. The threads weren't, when I threaded in the nipple, the resulting tapping marks on the inside of the pipe there, it didn't look nearly as deep as on the softer black pipe, and I'm not sure that it would actually be watertight. So that is another consideration. Now, a lot of people do find PVC easier to do themselves, to DIY if you aren't familiar with plumbing, but it's really not rocket science working with the black ag pipe, or PEX for that matter, although the PEX fittings that don't require a special tool to install, it can be kind of expensive, but you can get pretty simple push fit fittings for PEX. Okay, so I am putting this together but not tightening my pipe clamps yet. Now, it is very important, it will save you time to put your pipe clamps on before you put your fitting on. And one of the things about working with this black ag pipe, black poly pipe, is that it is incredibly difficult to get the fittings on and off. In the winter, you may actually have to use a little propane torch to heat up your pipe. But in the summer, it's flexible enough to pound in the fittings like this. As long as you have room to pound. Otherwise, you have to use a torch to heat the pipe up. So I'm getting ready to mark where I'm putting the nipples on the pipe. I'll put 2 for each cage. One on the side of the door opposite the feeder, and one actually under the door. Now, the tricky part of this type of watering system is that if you're going to have it heated, you can't have tees branching off of the pipe at every cage. So you need to be able to squeeze the pipe under all of the doors. These cages, they're just 2 wire spaces under the door, which isn't a lot of room. And it doesn't leave room for this type of cage closure. So this one I'm going to actually move to the side of the door, and I might even have to put one on either side. We'll see how it feels. Most of the cages are swing in with this type of latch, and that will work just fine to squeeze the pipe under. This part is fairly straightforward. We're installing the horizontal poultry nipples. You are basically just drilling a hole straight into the black pipe and then screwing the nipple in. It calls for an 11/32 inch drill bit. And if your nipples don't come with instructions, basically you're wanting a drill bit that just barely is big enough for the base of the tapered threads, so that you get plenty of bite when you screw the threads into your pipe. So you're making a hole, and then the threads on the nipple itself will threads will basically tap threads into the plastic of the pipe. So that's it. Just screw it right on in there, flush with the base of the pipe. So you may want to use a little nail or a nail set to get a little dimple started on your pipe to make sure that the drill bit doesn't slip off while you're trying to make the hole. Here's a good example. Yep. See, it wants to slide around there as you're drilling. Yeah. And then you end up doing that. Okay, so I'm getting this thing zip tied onto the cages. I'm going to put a few wire ties as well, just to be safe. I've cut out the one space of wire where the nipples will go. And here at the end, we have to have something to drain the system, to flush it, clean it out every once in a while. I had picked up just a simple PVC cap, 1-inch cap to go on the end here, but I happened to find laying around this giant 1-inch gate valve, because this is the sort of thing that we have laying around at our place. And so I'm going to put that on the end here instead, to make it a lot easier to flush the water system out, which means that it will happen a lot more often. Okay, getting this thing filled up here. And one of the most important things in the process here is to have your opening at the end open to flush all the little bits of plastic out from drilling the holes for the water nipples. So I'm going to just let this run for a bit. Alright, now the last step, finish up here, is just to bleed all of the air out of each of the nipples. I've already done these. Make sure they're flowing. And then check for leaks. So the last detail here is how to keep the water source itself from freezing, and I simply so this is the heat tape that was on the outside of the pipe. I just ran it up the side of the reservoir, looped it into the reservoir. Need to fill this one up a little bit, and then it plugs in over here.